My wife's last words to me were a warning. I didn't take them seriously. That was my first mistake. Margaret was already drifting when she said it, her hand barely squeezing mine in the hospital bed. Her voice was so quiet I had to lean in close to hear her. "Don't ever sell the farm, Harold, and don't trust my brother." Then she was gone again, back under, and 4 days later she didn't wake up. I told myself it was the medication. Margaret hadn't mentioned any farm in 26 years of marriage. I figured she was confused, mixing up memories from her childhood in Montana. And I filed it away in the back of my mind with all the other things I didn't know how to deal with yet. My name is Harold Aldridge. I'm 57, retired civil engineer, and 3 weeks after we buried Margaret, her lawyer called me in for a meeting I wasn't expecting. Clifford Haynes had an office that looked exactly like you'd picture a small-town Montana state lawyer's office. Dark wood walls, real books on the shelves. A desk you could park a truck on. He didn't waste time. He slid a set of keys across the desk before he even offered me coffee. "Mr. Aldridge, your wife owned a 1,800-acre property in Cascade County, Clearwater Farm. She inherited it from her father. According to her will, it transfers to you in full." I looked at the keys. Old iron, heavy. A tag stamped with the words Clearwater Farm, MT, she never told you, Haynes said. It wasn't a question. No, I said. She never told me. He nodded like he'd expected that answer. The deed transfer is clean. All property taxes are paid through next year. He paused. There's also been significant interest from energy companies in the region. Natural gas deposits were confirmed about 16 months ago. Several purchase offers have already come in. I was still looking at the keys. Then Haynes said the part that snapped me back to attention. I should also mention that Victor Langley has already filed a legal objection to the will. He's claiming Margaret lacked mental competency when she signed it. Victor, her older brother, the man Margaret had barely spoken to in the last 10 years of her life and never explained why. Don't trust my brother. I drove to Montana the next morning. The property was about 45 minutes outside Great Falls, down a county road that turned to gravel after the first mile. I had the address and a rough idea of what to expect. An old family farm, probably run down, probably more trouble than it was worth. I'd already half decided to sell it, get a fair price, close the chapter, move on. That plan lasted until I pulled up to the gate. The fencing on both sides of the road was recent, not patched up old fencing, new posts, new wire, properly tensioned. The gate itself was solid timber, well built, with the name Clearwater Farm cut into an iron crossbar above it. Beyond it, the gravel drive curved through pasture that had been cut and maintained. In the distance I could see the main house, a 2-story structure with a metal roof that wasn't more than 5 years old, 3 outbuildings to the right. A separate older barn sitting further back, looking deliberately untouched compared to everything else. This was not a neglected property. Somebody had been taking care of this place for years. I used the first key on the gate, drove up to the house, and used the second key on the front door. I have been on job sites my entire adult life. I know what a well-built space looks like. The main room of that farmhouse had high ceilings, exposed timber beams, a stone fireplace built into the east wall that was original to the structure and still in perfect working order. But none of that was what stopped me cold 2 steps inside the door. On the walls were my engineering drawings, not prints, not framed artwork, my actual work. The Yellowstone River Bridge specification sheets I'd spent 4 months on back in 1998. The Billings flood control levee design from 2007, the project I was most proud of in my entire career. Photographs of structures I'd built, taken from angles that showed the finished work the way I always wanted to see it, but never had anyone document for me. And on the wall beside the fireplace, a pencil sketch on yellowed paper. A small workshop layout I'd drawn on a napkin in a diner in Butte, but 15 years ago, showing exactly the kind of workspace I said I'd build for myself when I retired. I had thought I'd thrown that napkin away. Margaret had kept all of it, and she had brought it here. I sat down in the nearest chair and just stayed there for a while. A voice from the back of the house, Mr. Aldridge, the man standing in the kitchen doorway, was about 65, broad-shouldered, wearing a canvas work jacket that had seen serious use. He introduced himself as Hank Perot. He'd been managing the property for Margaret going on 4 years. She hired me after her father passed, Hank said, pouring 2 cups of coffee without asking if I wanted one. Said the place needed consistent care. She came out herself twice a year to check on things and make decisions. And she never mentioned any of this to me. I said, no. She was clear about that. He set a mug in front of me and sat down across the table. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should help you find your footing here. Said there was one place you needed to see before you made any decisions about the property. Where? He nodded toward the window. The old barn. He reached up to a hook by the back door and took down a smaller key, more worn than the others, and set it on the table between us. The old barn looked like it had been left alone on purpose. Weathered siding, one shutter hanging at an angle, a rusted hinge on the main door that nobody had bothered to fix. Everything else on the property was maintained. This building was the one exception. And standing in front of it, I started to understand that was a deliberate choice. Hank unlocked a side door I almost walked past. Inside was a standard working barn, hay stacked along one wall, old tillage equipment, a dirt floor worn smooth from years of use. Nothing that would make you look twice. Then Hank walked to the back wall and pulled a rolling equipment shelf aside on a floor track. Behind it was a solid door, no different from a utility room door, easy to miss. Same key opened it. He reached in and flipped the light switch. I stepped through and stopped. It was a professional workshop, not a weekend hobby setup, a full working space. A metal lathe along the left wall, a drill press bolted to its own pad, a workbench running the full length of the right wall with pegboard tool organization above it. Every tool hung in its place, outlined in paint so you could see at a glance what was missing. A diagnostic computer for equipment repair sat on a side table. Manuals stacked on a built-in shelf, organized by category and labeled on the spine. A parts cabinet with labeled drawers. An overhead light system that gave clean, even coverage across the whole space. It was exactly the workshop I had described to Margaret maybe a dozen times over the years. Not approximately right. Exactly right. She had listened to every detail and built it. Against the far wall was a steel safe bolted through the concrete floor. Hank pointed at it and said, "She told me everything you need is in there," and then he walked back out and gave me the room. I stood there for a minute before I opened it. Inside the safe, a leather-bound notebook, a USB drive in a small plastic case, and a folder of financial documents about 2 inches thick, organized by year with tabs going back 12 years. I sat on the workbench stool and opened the notebook. Margaret's handwriting, even careful, the way she wrote when something mattered to her. The first page had one line. "I should have told you this a long time ago. I'm sorry I didn't." What followed took me about an hour to read through completely. The short version, Victor Langley had been managing the Langley family assets since their father's health declined, roughly 15 years back. Accounts, property, investment portfolios. Margaret had trusted him with it because she lived in Minnesota and her father had always handled those things himself. And Victor was on the ground in Denver with the legal background to manage it. After her father died, Margaret started going through the records. It took her about 6 months to find the gaps, because Victor was good at what he did and the gaps were not obvious, but they were there. Unauthorized withdrawals billed as management fees, expenses charged to the estate for work that was never done, 2 property transfers that had moved assets out of the estate before probate. The total by Margaret's accounting was somewhere north of $340,000 over the years he had been in control. She confronted him. Victor's response was calm and immediate. If she reported it, he would provide documentation showing she had been aware and consenting throughout. He had prepared for this conversation. He had paperwork with her signature on routine correspondence that he said he could present in a way that made her look complicit. She was not a lawyer. She did not know how exposed she actually was, and Victor knew she didn't know, so she went quiet. And she spent the next 12 years covering the losses herself, protecting what was left of her father's estate, keeping the farm out of Victor's reach by simply never telling anyone it existed. She never told me because she did not want me going at Victor directly. Her exact words in the notebook were, "You would have confronted him the same week, and he would have been ready for it. I wasn't going to let him take you down too. This was mine to handle." The financial folder had everything she had gathered over those 12 years. Receipts matched to dates. Bank transfer records. 2 contracts with Victor's signature acknowledging receipt of funds described as personal loans, never repaid. A letter from Victor to a third party that referenced the original transfers in language that made clear he knew exactly what he was doing. She had also commissioned her own geological survey of the property 2 years before she died. The results were in the back of the folder. The natural gas deposits under the western section of Clearwater Farm were significantly larger than anything the energy companies had been quoting in their purchase offers. She had known the real numbers. She had kept them to herself and kept the farm off the market. I set the folder down and picked up the USB drive. There were audio files on it. Margaret's voice recorded in what sounded like a quiet room, probably within the last year of her life. She walked through each document in the folder, explained what it was, explained how it connected to everything else, and told me in plain language what to do with it if Victor came after the property. I sat in that workshop and listened to my wife's voice for 2 hours. She was calm the entire time, methodical, thorough. Halfway through the third file, she paused and said, "I know this is a lot to take in all at once. I'm sorry for that too. But you're going to be fine, Harold. You always figure things out. That's one of the things I've always counted on. I had to stop the recording for a while after that. When I came back to it, she finished walking me through the documents and then said, quietly, "Call Ryan. He needs to hear some of this from you before Victor gets to him because Victor will try." I pulled out my phone. Ryan picked up on the second ring. He sounded cautious before I even said anything, which told me something. "Dad, hey, I was going to call you tonight. Have you heard from Victor Langley?" I asked. A pause, long enough to answer the question before he did. "He called 3 days ago," Ryan said. "Offered me a position with a company he has connections with. Petroleum engineering, good salary, Montana region. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either." Another pause. "I was going to talk to you about it first. I just didn't know how to bring it up. Ryan is 29, he works in petroleum engineering and he is good at it. He lost his mother 6 weeks ago, and he was still trying to figure out which way was up." Victor had called him at exactly the right moment, offering something that probably felt like a connection to his mother's family, a door into a part of his history he had never had access to. I understood why Ryan had hesitated. I wasn't angry about it. "I need you to come to Montana," I said, "before you make any decisions about that offer. What's going on? Your mother left some things here that you need to hear. I can't explain it over the phone. Just come out." He arrived 2 days later. I walked him through the workshop, showed him the safe, and sat him down at the workbench with the notebook and the folder. I let him read. He went through it slowly, stopping a few times to go back and reread something. When he got to the section about Victor's threat, he set the notebook down on the bench and looked at the wall for a while without saying anything. Then I played him 15 minutes of his mother's audio recordings. Margaret's voice filled that workshop the same way it had filled our house for 26 years. Steady, direct, no wasted words. She explained what Victor had done, explained why she had handled it the way she did, and near the end of the recording she said, "Ryan, if you're listening to this, I need you to know I didn't keep this from you to protect you from the truth. I kept it from you because the fight wasn't yours to carry, it was mine, and now it's your father's. Trust him." Ryan didn't say anything for a long time after the recording ended. Finally, he looked at me and said, "I'm not taking the job." "I know," I said. "What do we do now?" I had been thinking about that since the night I first listened to Margaret's files. She had laid out a clear path. She had not left me a problem. She had left me a solution with instructions. All I had to do was follow them in the right order. "First," I said, "we get an independent auditor. I want a formal review of every Langley family asset Victor has managed in the last 20 years. Margaret's documentation covers 12 of those years, but I want the full picture before we sit across a table from him." Ryan nodded. "And the energy company." Margaret did her own geological survey. "The real numbers on the gas deposits here are significantly higher than what any of the companies have been quoting. I want you to go through her survey data and verify it. You know this field better than I do." He picked up the folder and flipped to the back section where the survey results were. His expression shifted as he read through the first 2 pages. "Dad, these numbers are not even close to what the public estimates have been. I know. The western section especially." He turned the page and looked up. "Victor doesn't know about this survey?" "No, Margaret kept it completely private." 3 independent geologists, all under confidentiality agreements. Ryan looked back at the survey data. I could see him calculating. "It's the same thing I do when I'm looking at a structural problem. Run the numbers, check the assumptions, verify the load." He got it from his mother, honestly. "He came after this property thinking he knew what it was worth," Ryan said. "Yes, and he had no idea." "No, and that's exactly how it stays until we're ready." What I did not say to Ryan that afternoon, but what I had been sitting with since I first heard Margaret's recordings, was how close I had come to doing exactly what she had predicted. If Haynes had called me a month later, if I had been in a different state of mind, I might have driven out here once, looked around, decided the legal fight wasn't worth it, and sold the property to the first reasonable offer. Victor had been counting on that. He had probably been counting on grief, making me slow and distracted and easy to manage. Margaret had known that too. That was why she built this the way she did. She had not left me a burden. She had left me a foundation and waited to see if I would use it. The independent auditor's report came back 11 days later. The findings were worse than Margaret's notebook had estimated. The total in unauthorized withdrawals, fraudulent fee billing, and improperly documented asset transfers came to just under $390,000 across the full 20-year period. The auditor flagged 3 specific transactions as potentially criminal rather than just civil violations. I sent a copy to Beverly Stahl, the estate fraud attorney Haynes had recommended. She called me within an hour. "Mr. Aldridge," she said, "your wife built an airtight case. This documentation is as clean as anything I've seen. How do you want to proceed?" "Victor is going to come to this property," I said. "When he does, I want to be ready. How much notice do you expect?" "Not much. He already filed the will contest. He'll want to move before we get fully organized. I'd give it a week, maybe less. It was 4 days. Victor arrived on a Tuesday morning with Nolan and Dwight behind him and a lawyer I didn't recognize riding in the second vehicle. They came up the driveway with the easy confidence of people who believe the outcome is already decided and the meeting is just a formality. I watched them from the porch. Ryan was standing to my left. Hank had positioned himself near the corner of the house without being asked. Beverly Stahl was already inside, seated at the dining table with the auditor's report and Margaret's folder arranged in front of her. Victor looked older than the photos I had seen. He was well dressed, the kind of careful grooming that says I'm in control of every detail. He came up the porch steps with his hand extended and a measured smile, the kind of smile that is professionally calibrated to seem warm without actually being warm. "Harold, I'm glad you agreed to meet. I know this has been a difficult time for all of us. Come inside," I said. We sat down at the dining table. Victor took the chair at the far end, which told me something about how he had planned this conversation. His lawyer, a man named Gerald Pruitt, set a leather portfolio on the table and folded his hands over it. Nolan and Dwight sat on either side, quiet. They were there to make the room feel more full, to shift the weight of presence toward Victor's side. Victor opened with sympathy, said he and Margaret had a complicated relationship in recent years, and he regretted that. Said the property had been in the Langley family for 2 generations, and he felt a responsibility to see it handled properly. Said he had a proposal that would give me a fair settlement and let me return to Minnesota without a drawn-out legal process. He was smooth, I'll give him that. If I had walked into that room without Margaret's notebook, without the audio files, without 11 days of preparation, I might have sat there feeling overwhelmed and outmatched. That was the design. I let him finish. Then I said Beverly. Beverly Stahl placed a copy of the auditor's report in front of Victor and slid individual copies to Nolan, Dwight, and Gerald Pruitt. "This is the result of an independent audit covering 20 years of Langley family asset management," she said. "The findings document $390,000 in unauthorized withdrawals, fraudulent fee billing, and improperly transferred assets. 3 specific transactions have been flagged for potential criminal referral. The room went quiet in a particular way, not the quiet of people thinking. The quiet of people recalibrating." Pruitt opened his copy and started reading. Nolan looked at Victor. Dwight looked at the table. Victor's expression didn't collapse. He was too experienced for that, but something shifted behind his eyes, a very small and very fast adjustment, like a man who has just realized the room he walked into is not the room he mapped out. "These are private family matters," he said, "and this audit was conducted without authorization from any relevant party." "Mrs. Aldridge authorized it," Beverly said, "in writing 18 months before her death as part of her estate planning documentation. That authorization transferred to Mr. Aldridge with the property." Pruitt leaned over and said something quietly to Victor. Victor listened without looking at him. "I set Margaret's 2 contracts on the table, the ones with Victor's signature, acknowledging receipt of funds as personal loans, the ones that were never repaid. I'm also filing a complaint with the Montana State Bar this week." I said, "Beverly has prepared the submission. Given that you are actively practicing in Colorado, we've copied the Colorado Bar as well." Nolan pushed his copy of the audit report away from him slowly, like he was distancing himself from it physically. Dwight hadn't looked up in several minutes. Victor looked at me across the table for a long moment. The measured smile was gone. "What is it you want, Harold?" The will contest dropped. "Clearwater Farm stays in my name, all 1,800 acres, all mineral rights. You sign an acknowledgement of the debt documented in this audit with a repayment schedule Beverly has already prepared. In exchange, the criminal referrals stay in this room and the audit remains a private document." "That's not a negotiation," Pruitt said. "That's an ultimatum." "Yes," I said. Victor sat with it for a moment. I watched him run the numbers the same way I had run them, his license in 2 states. His active cases, the criminal exposure, the fact that Nolan and Dwight were now sitting there having read the same documents and would carry that knowledge regardless of what happened next. He signed the agreement before noon. I walked them out to the driveway and watched the 2 vehicles go back down the gravel road and through the gate. Hank came and stood next to me. Neither of us said anything for a while. "Your wife would have liked how that went," he said finally. "She planned most of it," I said. Ryan stayed on for another week. We spent most of it going through Margaret's geological survey data together and getting ready for the first real meeting with Perry Sutton at Northern Basin Energy. That meeting went differently than the ones the energy companies had been expecting. Ryan knew the technical side. I had Margaret's numbers. Sutton left with a counterproposal that reflected what the land was actually worth, not what they had hoped to pay. The workshop gets used most weekends now. There's always something on the property that needs attention, and I have found that working with my hands in a quiet space for a few hours does something that is hard to describe and easy to understand if you have ever done it. I go through Margaret's audio files sometimes when I need to think through a problem. She had a way of laying things out clearly without making them sound simple. I always came away from those recordings feeling like I understood the situation better than I did going in. She did not tell me about any of this for 26 years. Not the farm, not Victor, not the money, not the geological survey she had commissioned on her own. She handled it quietly, carefully, and completely, and she left me everything I needed to finish what she started. I used to think I knew her as well as a man can know his wife after 26 years. Turns out she was carrying more than I ever knew, for longer than I can imagine, and she did it without complaint and without asking for anything. If someone you loved left you something unexpected, something that only makes sense after they were gone, consider that they may have understood you better than you realized. Some people protect the ones they love not by staying close, but by preparing the ground ahead of time, quietly in ways you only see when you need them most. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who would understand it. Leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is a good time.